First of all, good morning, a very warm welcome, and thank you for coming here in so great numbers. My name is Aleksandra Ptak-Iglewska, and I have the honor to moderate this debate devoted to water management facing the crisis. So how to counteract drought and how to protect water resources. We have 1 hour. We have Mateusz Balcerowicz here, Deputy President of Polish Waters for protection against drought. Marian Poślednik, former MP and former Senator. Good morning, sir. Mr. Konrad Łuszczewski, owner of Berryfarms, producer of fruit. Mr. Jacek Soska, the MP, Under Secretary of State at the Ministry of Agriculture and former Speaker for PSL party. And Mr. Sebastián Sangro, expert from Direction General for Watering at the Ministry of Agriculture in Spain. Water is generating problems. In September we have a disaster flood, which caused billions of losses, and in the next spring we are entering with drought. And INGW made 3 warnings against hydrological drought. Quite recently 2 warnings were published. The analysis counteracting drought, lack of water is on a quarter of territory of Poland. It is not a very well-known information. I was greatly impressed by it because during extreme droughts, lack of possibility to take water from underground was noted, and they stated the need to improve the underground water situation. And Poland has such resources of water like Egypt. So this is a problem we will bow over today. I work in economic department of Rzeczpospolita, and this point gives me such perspective that we analyze phenomena globally from economic perspective, and we look through the perspective of costs, which allows to see the scale of problem in the scale of the whole country and the charge for state budget. And actually the load is great because as the report of Polish Economic Society proved, as a result of drought we lose crops worth over 6.5 billion zlotys. So thanks to watering we can save 1/3 of crops. So today we will trace experience related to losses to drought, but this also shows us on what topics we should focus, and this is retention, technology, politics, and experience from other countries. First, let's move over to diagnosis, what we are dealing with. So the first question is addressed at Mr. Balcerowicz. Water management facing the crisis, but what is the size of this crisis, sir? In your presentation from Polish Waters about water resources, Poland is in the position number 24 out of 27 European countries, EU countries, so it is rather weak situation. Why? There is so little water here. Thank you, Madam Editor, for this question. And once again, thank you for having invited me to the forum. I must admit that 2 years ago I was at this forum at a similar panel, Water in Agriculture, and I was a moderator like you, Madam, because at that time I was chief editor of a scientific monthly, Water Management, and I congratulate you taking up this challenge. And yes, but you have 5 minutes. Okay, so let me move on to the answers. So you specified statistical data used commonly. So the statistics of surface waters, 1.600 cubic meters per person. Yes, really, our position is at the very end of the list of EU countries, and globally we are below the average because in Europe the average is 4,500. But what is of key importance is distribution of this water and the utilization of it. We have to be aware regarding water circulation. Amount of water is not changing, but what is changing is distribution of it, and extreme phenomena in the form of lack lack or excess of water, so drought and flood. And when we impose growing temperature on it, so physics makes greater dynamics of those phenomena. And back to the point, utilization of water in Poland is for various sectors of economy, and creating a system of today's water law, rule was assumed to balance the water resources, and introduction of a system based on water services. And that system was to show where the water is utilized and how is it utilized, and if it is efficiently used. After 7 years from introducing this system, this year 7 years have passed, I think that still we do not have full balance, full picture. Therefore, because not all users are balanced and have current water permits regarding utilization of surface or underground waters. This, of course, makes planning difficult at strategic level. This makes it difficult to introduce appropriate directions of activities. But what is worst, really, that users themselves don't know what they are dealing with, because today they are aware that they may be using surface water or underground water in the form of flowing water, taking the water whatever way, in agriculture included, but it doesn't mean that in that place the water will be present always, because it may be depleted, and temporarily or permanently there will be lack of water. So first of all, balancing is important. Secondly, actually appointing areas where these problems are present to greatest extent, so hotspots. And here I aim at counteracting the drought outcome. Plan is excellent because it includes lots of activities addressed at many entities, but it has one shortcoming. It doesn't have the financial part in it. So all the entities who have to implement this plan are obliged really to search for funding by themselves. And those entities are starting from Polish waters, which I represent, through local governments, because local government units are specified there, through users, in that number, agricultural use of water, and so on. And therefore, one should consider how to approach it differently. And we currently are at the stage of updating this plan, and we took a systemic approach, so that firstly we show hotspots. So we do not make a list of tasks. No, first we point at places where problems are, and only to those problems we adapt a list of tasks, because a different approach, so going, hey, head forwards, including in the plan everything, like in 2021, leads to no good result. And if we have the hotspots specified, if we have tasks defined, then we can talk to financing institutions, be it we as governmental administration or local governments or users of water, in that number, farmers, agricultural users, so we can show what we need and where we need the funds to be directed. And the needs regarding drought are great, because there are hundreds of tasks specified in the current plan at the value of billions of zlotys. But we realize that actually this is only a small section, because majority of tasks should be addressed at those who are at the very bottom. In case of agriculture, the bottom are farmers, producers, and they should have the possibility to stop the water where it falls, and to keep it where it falls, and not to think what to do with the water when it flows out from the field to the irrigation ditch and it goes to river. It's too late. Then the water must return to the system by taking underground waters or taking from onland waters. It's time lost, and therefore we think that the system should be changed in such a way that actually we should start from the bottom, and only after that do strategic things. Well, a very interesting thing, one more theme. I know time is limited, but I think I still have 30 seconds, so let me say the indicator of retention is interesting in Poland. It is true, because it is 6.5 or 7%. It is balanced annually, so it comes 6 and 5. 6.5 till 7, but the goal is 7%. So building giant water reservoirs, which will not be translated onto what is happening in the soil, in the fields. So the outcome will not be as we would like to. Yes, reservoirs are needed, but they are an addition to the whole system, and it is important to keep water in the place where it falls on the ground. Well, it's too early for conclusions. Conclusions will be at the end of the panel, but now I would like to ask Mr. Konrad Łuszczewski, who is producer of fruit. You run your company for several years already, and you have been in this business longer. So what are your observations? Is the situation with water changing, and if so, in what direction? And can we today imagine production of fruit without additional water systems? Well, regarding the situation, whether it is changing, so over like a dozen years of experience, I may say that in the past we expected a period of lack of rainfall for 20, 30 days. Today, we sometimes have summers where for 50 days there is no rainfall. So freshly planted fruit trees or berries cannot survive in the soil without watering. Actually, the plants will not survive, so about 50% may die out. Whereas when you apply irrigation system, so a good irrigation system, then the dying fraction may be 3%, not 50. So the answer to the second question, there's no possibility now to create good quality planting in gardening or berries. Cost of labor is very high. Cost of plants, which we bring either from Polish or Dutch nurseries, are higher and higher every year. And no gardener, no farmer cannot afford dying in the freshly planted plants. So watering system must be there, and it's best when it is automatic. Well, where from do you take water for irrigation? We take water from the deep wells from about 80 meters underground, and we have water permits allowing us to do this, but knowledge how much of that water is available, how much in the scale of the nearest years can be used, we don't know, but so far we know we can be using it, and this is how we obtain the water. In our case, what I consider a good achievement and a change in place for about 8 years. The system is fully automatic, and fully automatic systems guarantee the best saving of water in the form of lack of pouring too much water onto the field, because before, when the system was not automatic, very often we had situations that somebody forgot to stop the water or switch off something, and it lasted 5, 15 minutes, maybe 1 hour, and depending on the capacity and the area, we had a big loss of water which was actually draining into deeper parts of the soil. So first conclusion, which is most important in my opinion from the perspective of saving the deep water, underground waters, is large-scale implementation of even small technological solutions like time sensors. So if somebody is switching on irrigation, they must not switch it on with pressing a button, but they must switch it through a device which will stop watering after a period of time, 2 hours or so, and it will get switched off even if the person forgets about it. So water will not be wasted by too much water flowing to the soil through too long time of watering. Well, thank you very much. You mentioned underground waters, and this topic has been especially well studied in Wielkopolska region, thanks to mines, actually. And now addressing Mr. Intermediary, well, what is the situation in Wielkopolskie region with underground waters? How was it studied, and do we know for how long that water will be available there? Good morning, a very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad that we can be discussing this topic here, topic of retention, water resources, and I have been introduced here based on my historic functions. I now would like to focus more on what is my experience of recent years, especially as president of local group of action in Wielkopolskie region, for a year president of Wielkopolskie rural areas, and you raised a very interesting topic, which for us in Wielkopolskie region, especially in this area of southwestern Wielkopolskie region, it is an area with lowest rainfall level in Poland, and on the other hand, intense agricultural activities, and with great resources of lignite at the depth of about 120 meters. And this lignite caused the reaction of the recent 10-15 years, especially among farmers, but also in local community. Studies related to these resources of lignite proved, by the way, we have quite a big knowledge about this, but not very commonly known. It's our task to popularize it in the nearest time, that underground water resources are so humble and limited only and solely to resources which are renewed by water actually permeating down. So there is no inflow from external sources to those underground waters. Therefore, taking too much water, because without detailed balance, it may cause, within 10-15 years, it may cause a very serious crisis related to lack of water for everyday use. Also, in our region, the agricultural and food industry being quite large, so we must specially focus on it. And what we are doing, firstly, we want to make the local people interested in this problem, because general knowledge which is being discussed exists. Yes, Wielkopolska, yes, it has little water, little rainfall, but so what? So therefore we decided that having such a big knowledge about these resources, we decided through strategic activities related to strategy of local development, local groups of activities, to include tasks related to small retention objects. And now, after 10 years, we have managed to get local communities interested. First of all, rural area communities interested in reconstruction of those small retention units in the form of devastated ponds. So we renovated such ponds in over 50 villages. This happened as a result of plans from 10 years ago. Now we have a new local zone of development, Zone G, and based on this experience we want to extend the scope of our activities. On one hand, educational ones, that means through soft action, well, say from European Social Fund, which seemed very strange, nevertheless accepted by local governments of Wielkopolskie region, to include local communities into such activities, among others micro retention, as I name it, so gathering water, collecting water in troughs in form of various hollows, rain gardens, to evoke some reaction related to getting interested in the topic. Now in this new strategy we have various workshops planned with women in villages. They are very active there now. So to make knowledge common about retention, water retention, this is one of our consecutive action plans, and another one resulting from certain unsuccessful stipulations in our strategy, because we were thinking that if there is a problem of water also in agriculture, so we will get farmers interested in these topics. And we had a strategy of rebuilding of those little ponds, but also irrigation ditches, because we are a territory with actually great areas of trees removed. Trees used to be along roads, irrigation ditches, but farmers didn't take up this challenge because of poor financial capacity of water companies. Therefore, we decided that in the new strategy we must take up challenges also related to making farmers aware regarding gathering the water in the place of rainfall. And I'm very glad that my predecessor mentioned the new approach. So we must approach the problem bottom up, not from top to bottom, but bottom up. So study resources, include local communities to get them involved, and thus creating certain strategic plans and implement them with local communities. Because if we are trying to carry out politics like so far with top-to-bottom plans, well, I can give you one of the examples which we managed, fortunately, to stop. Rokosovo retention reservoir was to be funded from Polish waters, 100 million zlotys at the territory of peat meadows, where the reservoir was to collect the water by digging out the soil and removing, I don't remember how many millions of cubic meters of the peat, and to collect water there. Fortunately, this project has not been implemented because we would actually thus exclude 40 hectares of very good meadows. We would spend 100 million zlotys and we would devastate somehow the environment without going into details. Well, did the project assume concreting the peat? No, but the underground was the base was not studied. It was silt clay, so the bottom below clay was a layer of sand, and thus the water would either be drained, not collected, or it would be flowing in, actually drying the surrounding area. So it shows sometimes absurd approach to certain questions, because we had money, we want to spend it, and some local communities, especially local authorities, often have the will to show, to actually write in that reservoir, especially in our area where the reservoirs do not exist, so they want to have it as recreation pond. On the bottom of the reservoir, recreation can be done. People swimming and entertaining. So on the one hand, local approach, but on the other hand, some achievements and weaknesses. Thank you very much for the last example, which shows that projects which will now be made after the diagnosis must be very careful about local conditions of natural environment, because a relatively good situation can be replaced by a very bad one. And now addressing Mr. Jacek Soska, recently you filed a petition, a request to the minister, or demand, to improve retention in Poland. And I would like to ask you, you have 5 minutes to present it. What ideas, what projects do you propose there? What improvement you demand? Well, use a microphone. Sorry, madam, but if it is to be translated to my Spanish colleague, please give me additional 3 minutes. No, it's not needed. It's not needed. So, to the history, dear Senator, 50 years ago, 300,000 hectares every year were subject to melioration. And to a question to my ministry, I used to be, how many hectares is double? dewatering and watering. The director could not say how much, so I kicked him away. So you actually rejected Wielkopolska region yourselves. Exactly. And now, to catch up with it, let me tell you one sentence to check. Nature tells us to pay a lot for rights and treasures we take away from nature. So it's human being doing it nonsense way, not doing it both ways is harming themselves. And now program Soska ponds. It's 2 kilograms of paperwork. How to say this so that they understand here with Polish waters not understanding. Why do you say there is no money and billion euros which von der Leyen brought to fight the flood outcome? Nonsense liquidation of CO2 emissions, the greatest cheat of Europe. This is water. I was in Piotrków with intervention. I have water supervision in Koniec-Pol, and my program, Pond, is based on the fact that it's not money. It's not there. Well, I must shout because everybody can stand, but Jacek, I would like you to speak in peace. Are you counting down the time? Mr. Director, if from Fogger Fund, regional fund, I'm giving an example in Małopolskie region, it is 18 million zlotys. In the resolution, it's 45% for water management. So it gives you world championship. I will specify names. Vice Marshal Soris is boasting about one pond. You don't have a legal definition what is small retention and a legal definition of a pond. And in the resolutions, these things are included and money is allocated. So if he had one pond, well, it was actually compromission. And for 300,000, I will be moving to conclusions what the minister included, and not everybody read it. What Polish waters, not either. And how from 8 million zlotys addressed at increasing water reservoir contained in the Małopolskie region, 400,000 was used. So there is the second resolution, money not used by waters to be allocated to roads. The greatest breaking power is STS. All local governments will not build no reservoir, at least not large ones. And that's one thing. And let me tell the following. How to abbreviate it. So as a program titled Pond, this was the name in Małopolskie region, announced call for 50,000 subsidies for one water reservoir, small retention pond. This year, some people will correct me, it is 42 applications, last year 30. From 300,000 possible entities, farmers in Małopolskie region. I don't know if 2025 will be qualified. They are not difficult because I also filed one earlier. I was not allowed. So this is a situation that 2 years ago it was 11 ponds made and so on. This is who is the greatest braking force? Practically nobody knows how this money can be utilized. There are no water licenses up to 500,000 meters of area. You have to say this to people. You file a map not deeper than 3 meters up to 5,000 cubic meters, and you get silent approval from Polish waters because it is notification. So this blocking situation, which was in counties, architecture and construction department did such impossible things that they were not passing it. It is cancelled. So this is plus. And the money is available because utilizing a few percent of water money in Małopolskie region. Why in Małopolskie region? Because you said Egypt. The world, 7.5 thousand cubic meters per head, per capita. Europe, well, you said 4. 10 years ago, it was 3.5. Poland, 1,500. And Małopolskie region, less than 500 cubic meters per capita. And Egypt has 1,100. So in every household in farm there was a pond near the road collecting rainwater. It was an element of Polish villages. Everybody forgot it because we have water pipeline system. So to the question you ask, is money available? The money is available. Why not utilized? Because complete zero in advisory, completely breaking the situation by local communities, counties. They totally do not do it. Małopolska is a good example. And what comes before I move to conclusions, what minister wrote down, not everybody read it. I will show. Don't tell me silent. No, he wrote it down. So let me tell you the following. The 400,000 hectares, you should know it, Mr. Director of Polish Waters. This is also an element of how effectively to present it or implement, not ideas we will not be considering for 100 years because nothing will result from it. We will die out and 2 generations will be without water. So if now ponds in peat meadows done with the method of mini retention. May I use the name? It appeared somewhere per hectare. And I will ask everybody who are protesting, who want to actually sow maize in peat meadows. So give 5,000, 3 zlotys from square meter. How much will it be? 1,500 zlotys. 15,000 zlotys, sorry, for if the money is so terribly wasted. So now, crazy water and water security, Mr. Siekierski, Mr. Minister, he started signaling it because he knew yesterday I gave up that this is the most important task for Polish presidency. And now the 400,000 hectares buffer, well, time is ending. Is it possible to solve this topic, to present the demands? And now what the minister, well, we have the colleague from agricultural chambers. If we are so active that the resolution written by Minister of Agriculture, well, it will be related in consultancy with the unions, 54 organizations. How many applications were provided in writing from all Poland? 6. Mine was number 7 because they sent it to me. And what specifically in water? And if you want to see this has been implemented, it must be look into this book and let me read it right away now. Well, Jacek, but you only have 1 minute left. I will be speaking faster. It mustn't be done so that people come from all over Poland and I cannot say. So regarding proposals raised by organizations of farmers of southern Poland regarding new interventions in water security, so the grazing of grass, polders and ponds, Siekierski, the minister, wrote, well, so that everybody know how much money is available, but let's talk about what beneficiary can take and is not taking because they don't inform them. So new eco scheme, water safety, pond up to 100 square meters, 5 zlotys per square meter of a fee. I will prove it with all organizations which are dominating now. From 100 to 1,000 meters, 3 zlotys per square meter. Please calculate it. Farmer is doing 1,000 meters, and is it a significant element of cash so that to awake somebody? Well, because nothing is in water management. We are going back 100 years from 1,000 to 5,000 meters, 2 zlotys per hectare. And this is a stimulus. Without cash, nothing will be introduced, never. And this is the reason why so much cash is being wasted. For example, 5 billion for KPO. Why aren't we focusing on water? Regarding the embankments and grazing, if Siekierski understands, doctor of SGGW University, that the embankment, it can be done. And next task, group grazing, if the embankment is not stumped on from the outside, then the embankments could water for more than a week. So the question is how much money to add for grazing on the outside of water embankments. Thank you for your input, but now we are moving on to the next speaker. But I want to say, well, to Wielkopolski region, do work out plans for all those plants cleverly watered. It is grazing areas. I have 50 horses, 70 hectares. Dry years come, and every watering in other agricultural utilizations is ineffective economically. But there are things smart in agriculture. There is a young man here. We should start it, but who will start it if no organization will build it in writing and will not shake the minister? Even yesterday, we were not allowed to speak at the debate, but in the parliament, ministers are actually struggling with nonsenses. Oh. Thank you very much for this input, and very emotional, but very much to the point. And finally, we will come to conclusions. And let me announce, gentlemen, I will ask you to point at projects and ideas which, in your opinion, are necessary. And here will also be room to come back to the topic. And now, let me address our expert from Spain, Sebastián Sangro Lucas. In Spain, situation with water is very difficult. In Catalonia, the drought has been for several years. Now in Barcelona, vast limitations, even in access for water for inhabitants, for citizens. And Spain is given as an example what future may look like in general warming up. And problems which will probably come to Poland. So what is currently the situation with water in Spain, and what strategies Spain has to fight drought in agriculture, and what is the scenario for your agriculture now?
Well, thank you very much for having me first. Starting with Catalonia, I think you've said a few things that are very similar to Catalonia. First of all, they have a smaller amount of reservoir water than the rest of Spain. The situation actually for the past few years, they had a very strong drought, and these reservoirs were depleted. In recent months, actually, a lot of rain fallen in the whole Spain, and these reservoirs have been filled up again. So the drought situation has been handled. Catalonia has a different of the rest of Spain, a smaller amount of reservoir. This is one of the points that you have been making in this panel, is to increase the capacity of the country to have water in storage so that it can be used during droughts. In Spain, for example, we have in total in the 16 hydrological basins, we have a capacity of 55,000 cubic hectometers, and we use, per year, we use 21,000 cubic hectometers. So that means that if not a single drop of rain falls in Spain during 3 years, we could survive. And this has never happened, actually. None of I think the most drastic situation has been Catalonia in the past years, where the reservoirs fall down into up to 15%, which is nearly technically zero. But none of the reservoirs had depleted up to zero in any moment. So also, you've been talking about data. Data is very important here in this case. Also, one of the strategies implemented in Spain to address drought is to have very good data. For instance, since a few years, we've been implementing an app, mobile app application, also a web page. Called the agroclimatic information for irrigation. So it provides data to agriculturists so they can plan their irrigation. Talking about strategies, also different strategies to address drought from an agricultural point of view. First of all is implementing irrigation, of course. All the rain-fed plots around Spain during drought times are going to have more problems than other that have implemented irrigation, as you have been saying. So this has been working out since more than 100 years. We've been implemented irrigation since, well, we can go back to the Romans or to the Arabs, but this new modern irrigation that has been implemented started in the 20th century. We've been building a lot of canals, we've been building a lot of reservoirs to get the water to the agriculturals. And in the past years, since the year 2000, we've been changing this approach. Instead of implemented flood irrigation, which consumes a lot more irrigation, it's a lot less efficient. We've been implemented pressurized irrigation. So this has been happening since the year 2000, a little bit earlier, but strongly since the year 2000. We've transformed in the first period since 2000 to 2008 more than 500,000 hectares from flood irrigation to pressurized irrigation. And in this second period, from 2021 to 2027, more than 700,000 hectares are being modernized with new technologies. One of these technologies is actually the automation of irrigation, so the telecontrol, so that farmers can just use their mobile app, for example, for activating and deactivating the irrigation. Also, another approach is implementing Fireware, which is a European approach to the Internet of Things. So we are bringing the Internet of Things into the agriculture and to the irrigation sector. This will allow different companies to implement programs to use artificial intelligence and other tools that are going to help farmers not only know how to irrigate, also to know how much to irrigate. And of course, I haven't talked about this yet, but also one of the first approaches from an agricultural point of view is changing crops, using crops less demanding. Mm-hmm. So, well, in Spain, or I think all the Mediterranean is famous for example, the olive trees. Olive trees is a tree that demands very less water to have a decent production.
Ja mam takie pytanie przy tym, czy widzicie Państwo potrzebę
A question, do you see the need to apply new kinds of plants more resistant to droughts, or are you looking for such plants in the market now?
Well, this is a line of investigation that Spain has implemented, and I think all the Mediterranean countries have implemented since a long time ago, searching for crops less water demanding. We have varieties that could resist drought a little bit better than maybe other varieties. For example, for wheat and other cereals. For example, maize is a crop not that common in Spain. It is common in certain regions, but of course in regions where agricultural is rain-fed. Well, you won't find maize. You will find mostly wheat or barley or other drought-resistant crops. And also for orchards, for example, we've developed a lot of almond varieties. These already almonds is a drought-resistant tree, but we also developed special varieties that are more resistant to drought than common almonds.
Okay, dziękuję bardzo.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, there is a portal, water retention measures, describing good examples of good retention. There are lots of examples from Portugal, from Spain. There are 3 from Poland, from Mazowsze region, and there is one from the north of Poland. But here we have a producer of fruit among us who has a lot of own ways for this, used a lot of variable technologies to save water in his farm. Can you give us the best examples? As you were telling me before the panel, you are using even
Takie przykłady.
weeds to reduce water consumption. So can you give us your favorite methods to save water in your farm? Well, here this experience comes from Oregon, from the US, where I had an opportunity meeting a producer of sweet cherry, 300 hectares orchard, and I was interested in the topic of not mowing grass between the lines of trees where it was not necessary. So we bought a mower throwing cut grass to the sides. He bought the same in Oregon, and this showed us, this opened our eyes for some opportunities. That means today I think that most orchard owners, the greatest scale of orchards in Poland is apple trees. So our imagination now is we travel, we can see an orchard with grass very nicely cut down. We have herbicide strips in lines of trees. Everything looks nice, but from water saving perspective, it is not so beautiful, in my opinion, because radiation works very aggressively on the surface of soil and also in the herbicide strips. And at the moment, evaporation of water from soil is very high. And if we need to present a different concept, way of thinking, one that with utilization of a mower, but not an ordinary rotational mower, because rotational mower cannot throw out lots of grass or hay, but a beating mower, because it has great power and great rotating knives, and it throws out the cut grass like hay, forming a 10-15 centimeter mulching layer of grass and weeds between the tree lines, which reduces radiation very much. We go in to cut the grass when it is about 50 centimeters high and not at the height of 20. So I think this is the most interesting examples. It, of course, raises some problems, pests growing there, but from reducing radiation, it has positive influence on soil. And the second positive influence is maintaining herbicide strips at the level of 10 to 15 centimeters. So not so that somebody has a weed, say 2, 3, 4 centimeters high, and right away they go in with herbicides or mechanical weed removal. It lets the weed grow. Well, no problem. It is 10, 15 centimeters tall. Tollers generate problems, but if the weed is 10, 15 centimeters high, it will be either sprayed with herbicides or mechanically treated with all machines for mechanical control in herbicide strips. So from water saving perspective, it will be a better solution. Okay, thank you very much. And as you said, you are using drones also. I don't have a drone, but there are service companies, service providing companies who start doing this. This also relates to water retention. It's a bit broader perspective because from our orchard, we actually turned to 5 or 10% of berry orchard, which requires tunnels, foil tunnels, and based on knowledge obtained at various trainings, half energy needed for the plant to live. The plant is struggling with heat, and to be able to maintain all physiological processes, so spraying by a drone and shading the tunnel so that raspberries or blackberries find conditions easier for life, temperature-wise, positively influences saving water. And here, regarding the foil tunnels, I wanted to ask your attention to the fact that there used to be a trend 10 or 15 years ago, I don't know if it is still existent, that farms create monoculture. So if somebody is planting planting blueberries, American blueberries, so 5 to 10 hectares, and it is only American blueberry. In my opinion, much better solution is to put stakes on multicultural approach, because from the perspective of water utilization, we may try to have strawberries earlier in April, May, with some tunnels or some slightly heated objects, and then we can have the whole production process in summer, and in September, October, based on the foil tunnels, we can have late raspberry varieties. And thus, if we build a retention reservoir collecting water which falls, a rainfall falling on the tunnel roofs, so from 20 millimeters we have 600 cubic meters to be used in our retention reservoir. 600 cubic meters should be enough for about 10 days of irrigation of tunnels through irrigation systems. So taking water from soil is needed in a relatively smaller extent. It is all interconnected. Thank you very much for this interesting input. We have 10 minutes till the end of our panel, so now I will ask you for 1.5-minute inputs. A few interesting questions remain. The first one will be addressed to Mr. Balcerowicz and Mr. Poślednik about strategy of cooperation. So the first question, Mateusz, what good examples of cooperation you have in improving retention from the perspective of Polish waters, with local governments, with farmers? And 1.5 minutes. I will try to do it quick. So ad vocem to what has been said, we on the web pages of Polish waters, we have advisory file how to use waters. It was sent to ODR, Agency of Restructurization of and Modernization of Agriculture, and it contains interesting examples you may make use of. You say there are 3, so there are more. And as Polish waters, we implement a program of retaining water, but already at the stage of the trough retention and from own resources, because we are not beneficiary to KPO. So from own funds, over 4 years, we allocated about 40 million zlotys, 10 million zlotys a year, and 45,000 hectares actually have the melioration changed. And the third good example, Kluczbork County, there it was solved in a very interesting way. Local company, water company, roughly 10,000 real estate owners, because they are responsible for retention in the ground, 1,000 people, water company, Polish Waters, and over 2 years we managed from dewatering to convert the whole area into irrigation, into watering. I was twice at site. It looks done at low cost, because it is a cost of a couple dozen thousand zlotys at the side of institutions, and actually costs of producers, agricultural producers, putting in money, and we stop the water in the ground, and it is visible both in the form of what is being grown there and also what is in the water, because that water is completely different quality if it goes to the recipient. So very good example, Kluczbork County. Please study this example. I don't know if it is not in your specification, madam, but it should be specified there. Everybody were active there, from municipality through 1,000 real estate owners, water company, local producers group, and finally Polish Waters, and we managed to achieve this. I don't know if I will have a chance to speak, so a few words about the change. What should be the direction of changes? In my opinion, should be utilization of water companies, but this requires generally reform in this institution to go towards very local element of this water company and locating it there. Thank you very much. Marian, you have bottom-up experience, observation, so please tell us what it looks like from local perspective and what are the effective ways to get everybody involved. Well, I have just mentioned a little bit about our local strategies of development and including local communities. It is a systemic approach, so we have experience in Poland, and it is worth utilizing them, because 90% of rural areas are covered by local activity groups. We have close to 300 of them. They have good experience, and I believe referring to to these words of the former input, we have to include the local communities and create bottom-up plans for revitalizing the devices, and also to include water companies, because in this formula, legal formula, in which water companies are operating, they are not effective. And here we have to join forces. In my opinion, Polish waters, local communities through water companies, but also local governments to have sensible, realistic plans made for revitalization. For example, in Wielkopolska region example, I do not agree with Mr. MP that the local people were devastating. Yes, they were in 1960s, 1970s, they were devastating structure based on communist economy approach. But historically, the word meliorare means grow, and improving water and air relations from General Chłopowski, famous soldier, but also farmer. We should take example from 200 years ago. He started the proper water management also. So we have to bring the irrigation system or drainage system not to be drainage, but to be irrigation or drainage irrigation system. And the third thing I wanted to highlight, because we are not talking about this, and this is today very easy, relatively, we have to introduce a system of current monitoring of underground water resources, having availability of the whole system of digital informations. And what we know, because some institutions have some knowledge, but local communities do not have this knowledge. And it is a way for inhabitants in local environments to be sensitive to this problem if they know what is a threat for them, because they do not have knowledge in this respect. And of course, what Mr. President mentioned here, or Mr. Director, regarding change in the water company law. This is a key thing. Well, water companies is an interesting topic. I tried to find some information before the debate. We in Poland have at least 64 unions of water companies, and over, water companies all over Poland have great tax reliefs. They get subsidies from Ministry of Agriculture. So what are they doing, in your opinion, and what would you like them to be used for? Well, this is information actually blurring the reality. Yes, because, ladies and gentlemen, today, how many farmers do we have in the country? In the past, problem of water companies was a problem of farmers. Today, there is only a small percentage of farmers, and water is not only a problem for the farmers, so it is a problem for us all citizens. So we cannot base this problem to a great extent on water companies, understood so that it is a problem of farmers to a great extent. So this is a basic question. So I have already mentioned the fact that building this awareness is, first of all, giving availability of knowledge and information. This we do not have, and we want to somehow get involved, but it must be commonly solved, a problem, so that local communities know, because these are only general information items. As you mentioned, we have as much water as in Egypt per capita. And some things are known to people, but how is it translated to substantial things if people don't know the resource in local community? Well, thank you very much. We have 2 minutes till the end, so it's time for good advice. We have experts from every side here, so just a few sentences. I do apologize, but I will not go behind time limit. You see, so many people come from all over Poland, thousands of people, and you...
Bardzo proszę.
Well, he is speaking to himself. Kick him in the ass. Give him a microphone. give farmers for 1 meter of ditches kept in good drainage. I'm talking of detailed. Yeah, well, sorry, sir, but he is shouting and not using a microphone. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please, greatest harming people of the panel should be. Last year I told you how to increase water resource content of drinking water per capita, and here we have it, how to maintain the remnants, so how to briefly eliminate the greatest sabotaging people in water, all local governments, water companies. Secondly, don't mention LGD. There is a citizen, and don't tell me that there are less farmers, because we have 42 people in villages, so people living in villages. And is village a place to live for all 42% of people living in the village? You have only a few percent of farmers. I didn't disturb you. Will you let me? So if in nature he is making a water pond next to their building a house, well, they don't live in a block of flats, and people make small ponds because they have it in their mind, like a pond. Give money to people who are using this money effectively. Money not touched for water is stinking. I will not let it to be done in future. Some water companies and all these things. Question to you, how many zlotys do you need to maintain good irrigation practice for 1 meter of a ditch? How much? 3 zlotys, 5 zlotys, and the farmer will do it by himself because he has other subsidies for other schemes. This is one demand. Another thing regarding water. Is the matter acceptable? Will it start when it gets to the awareness? Mr. Director, why didn't you make a photocopy? Don't you have a photocopy machine? There are 350 counties, and you, with examples, don't mean in every county you have regional Polish waters. Piotrków, I was there. I will not mention this because I will tell you later. If somebody is not fit for the work and cannot deliver to common knowledge information how to take money, so just only bastards are parasites on this money. And water management, immediately organize a meeting, because Minister Siekierski even is asking me how to make internal good structure in practice of the internal embankments so that they don't swell after 5 days and the flood disaster can be avoided. And we have money for this. And here is the forum, in order not to give 1 second to panelists because I am weak, because I withdrew 10 years ago. But this cannot be the case, that still waters, and you will give me a few seconds. Director said what he knew, but they will not give him. It is not possible. The minister does not allow this. Inhabitants of villages who have the farm, they have the right to collect rainwater and water next to the road and from the ditch, and this has been neglected, Mr. Senator. You have the pulpit in the Senate. Shout and kick out this minister. You will appoint a better one, because they will not let me. 3 deputy ministers is 1 Siekierski, because this is the level of knowledge, period. Thank you very much. Any question from the audience? Can I see it? Great. But I have a question to organizers. If we can stay here 5 minutes longer, well, he allows, but I will ask the organizers. Thank you very much. Andrzej Hałasiewicz, Chairman of the Council and Foundation for Polish Agriculture, FDPA. First brief comment is exactly about those ministers in the plenary room. I was astonished that one of former ministers is criticizing GAEK 2, necessity to protect the peat meadows and
komentarz byłego ministra mógł pozostać
So how
bez
such a
reakcji
comment
sali?
of a minister could remain without response from the audience? For me, this was something incredible, and I find it hard that people of such competences are made ministers. Well, there are lots of themes, but I would like to touch on one, and also in the context of Spain. Well, actually, the flood in Catalonia was so that in one place it was flooded, in another place it was dry. I was in October in Guadalest looking at the reservoir, and Guadalest was at the level of 100% or 12%, unclear, as you mentioned. So we can have a drought and flood at the same time. But my question, well, a problem for farming, for agriculture, is that we have privatization of benefits and profits, and costs are made socialized. The water which we take from the ground to grow plants and to sell them to export, well, benefit is individual for maybe a group, and benefits are social. So we have to very seriously consider the question what plants we grow and very carefully give permits for irrigation. Spain has experience with almond trees. What environmental and social costs resulted from making almonds common? Do not let us have the same situation. Well,
Dzień dobry.
good morning, Beata Kowalska-Kośmider. Thank you for listening to this debate, although I'm hungry for knowledge, because here we have an idea for having weather, but we do not have bread. And I would like to ask why nobody is talking of gathering a lot of water, 1% of humus. Why nobody is mentioning humic acids? We have excellent experts here, but we do not have any specific details. And honestly speaking, I am disappointed, because I thought I would get specific information here on how Poland and world is responding to water reservoirs. Yes, they exist. Fine, because they are useful in case of flood, but 0.9 humus all over Poland is a shameful situation, and we are not doing anything. Awareness of farmers is very limited, and we do not want to learn it. I experience it every day, because farmers do not want to listen what to do to put aside artificial fertilizers and to apply organic matter. Why nobody is speaking about this and is not teaching? That's my question to everybody. Thank you. He is speaking to himself without microphone. Thank you, Polish Soil Association. Although several times soil was mentioned, but yesterday we had an excellent session about healthy soil. These factors must coexist, and now if we are talking of saving and irrigation, because you were talking of it and you mentioned sensors which are set in time and they switch off after the time, but we cannot simplify it. So without basic information about soil capacity for water, we don't know how much capillary water that soil needs, what is necessary for a plant. So water solution, the question to you, do you make such tests? Because this is information which will give us savings. We must know till what moment to irrigate water until it reaches 30–40%, because that is the threshold of water available for plants. Then gravity water starts. If we over-flood this water, then it is responsible for flushing out the nutritive components of the soil and ending. Why soil properties are not studied? No chemical station, no laboratories offering such tests. So how can we be talking of saving on waters, especially on irrigated systems?
Katarzyna Ciła z
Katarzyna Ciła, University, Development Research Society and Development of Poland. I practically, like my predecessors, well, first, why don't we have professionalization? How many funds were spent on professional expert teams? Spain, as an example, also Portugal, both professors from Spain and Portugal, well, they said that the average Spanish student has greater knowledge about water management in Spain than experts in Poland. So it is a completely different world, and we don't have professionalization here at all. And if we have such billions, so actually today in 21st century it cannot be done without professional staff, including the fact that we cannot hire experts from abroad. So this is a question mainly to the director of Polish Waters, but also to ministry from the perspective of bio management. Well, in PSL party, I was at a conference of biomanagement, but the problem died after elections. So these topics exist, they are raised, but when it comes to the point, those topics are dead, simply. So why there is no professionalization? Well, sorry, translator to our guest. It is 1 minute to the beginning of the panel in the main hall. I must be there, so I stop translating now. We have a proposal to collect your questions and pass on to panelists, and we will answer to you. Yes? Sorry, sir. I am going out because in 1 minute I start translation in the other room. It is 15 minutes after time. So all the best to you. Thank you.
Mamy w Małopolsce ponad 200 000 było hektarów zmeliorowanych. Jest dokumentacja, nie wiadomo gdzie to jest. Zlikwidowano zarządy melioracji. Dzisiaj jest samowola, niszczy się, wiadomo, tereny, urbanizuje się. Jedna sprawa. Druga sprawa, proszę Państwa, mówimy o zbieraniu wody, ale dzisiaj sytuacja prawna, niektóre starostwa żądają, jeśli bym chciał Mausera, przepraszam, zakrztusiłem się. Mausera postawić sobie na zbiór wody opadowej, to muszę mieć pozwolenie, proszę Państwa, ze starostwa, nie mówiąc o wybudowaniu jakiegokolwiek zbiornika naziemnego. I trzecia sprawa, uważam, że był błąd centralizacyjny. My dążymy do centralizacji. Powinniśmy powrócić do zarządzania zlewniowego, tak jak było. Centralizacja nigdy nie służy dobrze rozwiązaniom regionalnym czy poszczególnym.
Szanowni Państwo, bardzo dziękuję za dzisiejszą... Jak widać, mieliśmy za mało czasu. Temat jest bardzo duży, ale bardzo prosimy o przesyłanie pytań, tak jak powiedział pan Krzysztof, i będziemy kontynuowali tę debatę.